It's been a bit since I uploaded a proper devlog, but I do think I've made some decent progress on the game so far. If you haven't had the chance to check out my previous devlogs, I'll link them in the description below, as well as my retrospective on my experience trying game dev for the past several months. But what I wanted to specifically focus on in this devlog was overall game feel, which I will define as how does the game feel, which I guess is ultimately hard to describe. Not only if the game is fun, but do the controls feel natural? Are the inputs smooth and responsive? Are animations consistent and impactful? Amongst some other things. For example, I think games that have amazing game feel are Terraria and World of Warcraft. If you've played these games, you probably get what I mean. Even if you don't think these games are necessarily fun, they feel and play good. The movement, the combat, the systems just feel nice and really polished. So a lot of the recent development of the game has been primarily focused on developing game feel. First off, I completely redesigned the melee combat system. Previously, there was just an AoE attack that would sort of radiate from the player, and that was okay, but seemed very limited. For the combat system, I tried to implement a variant of the combat system in the game Archvale, which is almost like a four-directional version of Terraria's combat. I'm not sure if Archvale invented this combat system, but I think it's one of the more popular games that feature this style. Also, Game Endeavor's devlogs feature a very similar system, which I think is where I saw it for the first time. Essentially, there is a floating sword around the player, and when you attack, the sword interpolates around the player, creating a almost sword swipe type of effect. I also made the player always face the mouse position, and the sword rotates accordingly. Previously, the player would just face whatever direction you would move in, but now you can face any direction while moving in another direction. This, combined with the new combat system, feels a lot better than the previous system that I had. It also feels a lot more fluid compared to a regular four-directional attack that you might implement from a sprite sheet. It also makes it much easier to add more weapons into the game, as I won't have to create new sprites for the player carrying different weapons, and instead just swap out the floating sword with another sprite. I've also been thinking of adding some trail renderers or particle systems to the weapons to give them a bit more pop. If you are interested in implementing a similar combat system in your game, the Archvale Discord, specifically in the programming chat, has some pinned comments for the basics of the code. The code didn't work perfectly for me, so I had to alter it to fit my game, but it was definitely a helpful foundation, and the community there seems really helpful for answering programming and development questions. The system obviously still needs some work, but ultimately, the combat and movement just feel a lot more fluid and overall more fun, and I think this really works for this style of 2D game. Additionally, I added a player dash ability. This plays into the whole game feel as well, so now you can dash around while in combat, and again, just make everything a bit more fun. Another feature I matured a lot was enemy pathfinding and behavior. Using the free A-Star pathfinding project, enemies can now intelligently move towards the player or other targets while observing obstacles. I'll link the project in the description and the Brackeys video I used to initially integrate the system, and honestly, it's just a really intuitive system, and also it's really powerful. I also set up this test battleground map where I can test the new movement, combat, and enemy mechanics without having to worry about the main map too much. Now, in terms of enemy behavior, I think I made some pretty decent strides since the last devlog. Enemies and allies can now calculate and attack the closest enemies. They also have a critical strike chance with each attack, as well as a certain percentage chance to block an incoming attack, which definitely adds a bit of needed randomness. So every time I run a combat simulation, if we want to call it that, the outcome can be different. So I set up this test battle with a bunch of skeletons and knights to test out the overall mechanics, and I'm pretty happy with it. It obviously still needs work, and I want to make the NPCs a bit more intelligent by adding things like strafing or fleeing or other mechanics, but overall it just kind of makes me happy to see. If you have any suggestions for different mechanics or ways to implement mechanics, please comment them down below. Recently, I've had less time to work on the game, so I apologize for that, but I still find it super fun and rewarding to work on. Again, let me know what sort of features you might think are fun to add, as well as suggestions to help improve the overall game feel. Thank you so much for watching, and check out my other devlogs in the description below. Hey, thanks for sticking to the end. Thank you again so much for watching. Also, thank you all for helping me reach 10,000 subscribers. That's like super insane. And when I started this channel and started recording videos during college in my college bedroom, I really never thought I would ever reach an audience like this. So it's really just awesome and rewarding to see. I'm still thinking of video ideas to celebrate that goal, so if you have any suggestions, feel free to comment them down below. Check out nullref.co to see some minimalist programmer and techie sort of clothing designs that I've been working on. My name is Michael. We do a wee bit of an accent always at the end to practice. Check out one of my past videos and my past self would thank you dearly. Check out one of my future videos and my future self would also thank you dearly. Thank you again so much for everything, all of your support. I couldn't thank you guys enough, so hopefully I'll see you in another one. Bye-bye.